Why do you think that there is such an association that drinking is like the sign of a good time, or that you can't be social without drinking alcohol?
I just think it's ingrained in culture, Loz. Like we grow up with alcohol around us. It's in movies, it's glamorized. There's ads in magazines. Not that anyone reads magazines these days, but on social media, alcohol companies sponsor events and people win tennis tournaments and then drink beer out of a shoe. Like it's so ingrained in our culture. And so, no, I think, and it's not anyone's fault, but people just don't question it. When something is just so given, it's just one of the rites of passage. It's like you turn 5 or 6 and you go to school. It's like you turn 16 or 17, you start binge drinking. It feels like that is just the norm and the way that our society operates. And so if you don't question it, which I didn't, you then all of a sudden get trapped. And the tricky thing with alcohol is that it can kind of be addictive to some people. So then you're stuck doing this thing the whole time that maybe you don't really want to do, that you never really had a choice about. And then how do you get out of it?
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, there was very, very little research and education around getting out of that trap.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful now. These conversations are really, really normal where we can go, hey, you haven't had a drink for a while. How'd you do that?
Yeah.
How are you finding that? How can I get there?
Hey, I'm Loz McGlynn, and this is Yeah the Gals, a podcast for the ones doing the juggle. I'll be chatting with women in the thick of it, those taking big leaps, and experts with the insights that we usually type into Google at 2 a.m. If you're winging it like me, you're in the right place, and I am so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Mazzy.
Mazzy?
Razzle dazzle. Lozzle dozzle. I love that it's taken, we've been trying to catch up for, I reckon, 3 months.
No, I think it's been longer, babe. It's a real juggle.
Yeah, it's been a juggle. And so we get to just like catch up. You walk in the door and we just sit down and we dive straight into a podcast. But thanks for stopping in.
That's fine. I do feel like in 2025, this is how girlfriends hang. Like we just record our conversations
Yeah.
and then hopefully they benefit other people.
Yeah,
It feels pretty normal.
it does. And I love it. I mean, you're a seasoned pro because low key have been like a brekkie host, radio host, media personnel for the last, 20, 30?
All right. Yeah. Okay. It's been a while. It's 20 years.
20 years.
21.
Wow.
21 years.
Wow. And actually, I was thinking about this on the drive over, but you were like a pivotal part in me starting this podcast. And I posted about it last night, actually. You were a part of the reason where I said, I'm going to take an absolute plunge and ask Maz if she'll do a podcast episode with me. You had no idea what I was doing, what it was about. I'd probably only been working with you for like a couple of months, not even.
Yeah.
And you were just like, yeah, babe, I'd love to. What a pleasure. And you just said yes.
But that's because it's you.
Yeah.
Like you were the key part. I'm like, whatever you need. And I was like, also, you can do this because I just feel like I had that belief in you.
Well,
And
thank
that's
you.
a very you driven thing. So
Thank you, because like 2 years later we're sitting down and something that we touched on in that chat but want to delve straight into is you have been sober for 10 years now. Is it the 10 years this year?
Yeah, it has been 10 years. Yeah.
10 years, and in that time you have become like a massive advocate for sobriety. You have written a book, you've hosted a very successful podcast, you've written 2 books actually.
Yeah, true. Factually correct. Yeah.
2 books.
Yeah.
You have spoken to many other people around their sobriety stories, but you've also done the research. You've had professionals come on. I spoke to you about sobriety myself when we first met, and I'm going to drink a little bit of vulnerability around that as well. But I might start and say, like, 10 years ago, what was your relationship with alcohol before you decided to become sober?
It's really interesting. It took me a while to share my story too, by the way. Like I didn't quit drinking one day and then come out of the gates the next and become this sober living advocate. It's been a huge, huge journey. But I will say the more I tell my story, the more I realize my story isn't unique. And that's a bit of a twist because I think at the time, 10 years ago, when I was looking at my relationship with alcohol, I thought I was the only person in the world experiencing a real conflict of interest. So, what I mean by that was I didn't want to drink alcohol. Like, I was kind of done. I didn't want to be hungover. I didn't want to carry on anymore. I was really over it, but I had no idea how to not drink alcohol. So every weekend that came up, every celebration, every afternoon after work, every invitation that I was receiving. And at that time of my life, I was in a brand new relationship, long distance, and I had one of my dream radio jobs. So living the dream. And with that dream came a lot of free booze, a lot of invitations to parties and events and functions. And so I just didn't know how to exist in any of those environments without alcohol. And I thought I was the only person that had that conundrum of I keep doing this behavior that I really want to stop. I don't know how to stop. What's going to give? That was kind of the conflict that I was feeling for a good year. So in 2014, that was sort of that pivotal year for me. I started thinking thoughts like, I don't want to go to Carly's party because I don't want to drink. Instead of going, I'll just go to Carly's party and not drink alcohol. It didn't feel within the realms of possibility at all in 2014. And I will tell you, leading into me deciding to take a month, that's all it was ever going to be. I'm just going to do a month off alcohol. I honestly thought, one of my honest thoughts was, I am going to die of boredom because I don't know what else to do with my time because I can't be around people and not drink alcohol. And that was a very real fear. But then once I'd made that decision, well, I didn't die, did I? Of boredom or anything. And so my worst fear didn't actually manifest at all. And all of those other little things that I told myself along the way, like you'll be a social outcast or it'll ruin your career or it'll change your personality or you won't be the same Maz, like all of those fears, none of them were true. They were all completely fabricated and kept me trapped in that drinking cycle for way, way, way too long.
Why do you think that there is such an association that drinking is like the sign of a good time or that you can't be social without drinking alcohol?
I just think it's ingrained in culture, Loz. Like we grow up with alcohol around us. It's in movies, it's glamorized. There's ads in magazines. Not that anyone reads magazines these days, but on social media, alcohol companies sponsor events and people win tennis tournaments and then drink beer out of a shoe. Like it's so ingrained in our culture. And so, no, I think, and it's not anyone's fault, but people just don't question it. When something is just so given, it's just one of the rites of passage. It's like you turn 5 or 6 and you go to school. It's like you turn 16 or 17, you start binge drinking. It feels like that is just the norm and the way that our society operates. And so if you don't question it, which I didn't, you then all of a sudden get trapped in it. And the tricky thing with alcohol is that it can kind of be addictive to some people. So then you're stuck doing this thing the whole time that maybe you don't really want to do, that you never really had a choice about. And then how do you get out of it?
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, there was very, very little research and education around getting out of that trap.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful now. These conversations are really, really normal where we can go, hey, you haven't had a drink for a while. How'd you do that?
Yeah.
How are you finding that? How can I get there?
I also think traditionally people, if you like, I would have never looked at myself and thought I have a problem or a bad relationship with alcohol. But then, like, the people would say, alcohol, if you're an alcoholic, you are someone who cannot get out of bed or cannot function and, like, are a bit of a, like, you know, you're like a person in society that like can't hold a job down and
Mm.
that's actually not true. Like I've learned that like you can have a not a good relationship with alcohol, but that doesn't mean that you're like homeless
Yeah.
and only drinking alcohol
Yeah.
and like sculling a bottle of vodka every day. Do you know what I mean?
So it's all, I totally know what you mean, and it's all relative. And so when I talk about this, I talk about people's pain thresholds. So, like, for some people, like, if they twist an arm, that could be the worst, like 10 out of 10. most insane pain they've ever felt, and they need to have a lot of attention. It needs to be ice. They need some pain meds because they've twisted a muscle. For other people, they might break a leg and literally not even bat an eyelid. They're like, oh yeah, broke my leg. I don't even need the green whistle. And so people have different pain thresholds in their body. I think that's normal based on so many different factors, right? It could be due to your upbringing. It could be due to your bone density. It could be due to so many different things. It's the same with alcohol. So one person can have their first sip of alcohol and then not drink alcohol for the rest of their life, and it doesn't bother them at all. And then other people can drink and give it a miss sometimes. And this is where it becomes an issue, is exactly what you were saying, is we have this perception in society of like, if I am not falling down drunk without any shoes or without a home, then alcohol is okay.
Yeah, like,
If
of
it's
course.
not the most extreme version and it hasn't completely ruined my life, then I can get away with it. But I think what we're realizing, especially as women, as all of this research is coming out, is just because those exterior factors aren't the worst case scenario, it doesn't mean it's doing you any good.
Yeah, and to your point, like, alcohol is seen as a celebration. Like,
Yeah.
when there is any kind of major social celebratory event, birthdays, weddings, all those sorts of things, it is with alcohol. There's no warning labels, and I guess, yeah, to your point, it's the perception is that it's just a normal part of what we do every day. I don't know where my thought goes with this because there are, like you said, there are some people that might have a couple of drinks and then not drink for a month and it'd be
Yeah.
fine.
And it's fine.
Yeah. But do you, like, in your opinion and experience, and obviously someone that's been sober for like 10 years, you're
Yeah.
like,
Is that fine?
is that fine?
Well, it's really tricky. Like, this is a full gray area conversation
Mm.
because firstly, I've just finished reading this book called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and it doesn't matter what I think because everyone makes their own choices. So it only matters what you think about your relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, hey, no amount of alcohol is good for you, and I think 0 drinks for the rest of your life is your best shot at your best, longest, healthiest life, it doesn't matter that I have said that out loud, because if somebody wants to drink and justify their position with alcohol, they are going to do it because that is what they want to do. So I guess the real question is, and I've asked this of myself leading into my breaking up with alcohol, really, was like, why am I drinking? So like, why can't I go to my friend's wedding and not drink? Like, what is that about? And then you kind of have to ask yourself why 3 or 4 more times. So, okay, why can't I go to my friend's wedding without drinking? I'll feel like I'm left out. I'll feel excluded from the celebrations. Why would you feel excluded from the celebrations? I would just feel really awkward, and I think people are going to judge me. Okay, so you're worried about what other people are going to think of you. Why are you worried about what other people are going to think of you? Well, I might only be meeting them for one night, but I don't want them to walk away and think that I'm really boring. Why do you care if anybody thinks that you're boring? Like, if you start breaking down the layers on that particular scenario with you and alcohol, you might get to the core truth of the matter, which might be something as simple as, I'm just worried what people will think of me. And then you can do some work around that. Like, why do we have to people please? Why do we care so much? You're spending one night with a bunch of people that you're probably never going to see most of them again. Why does it matter if they think you are boring?
Mm.
Do you think you're boring? And then you can, and so this whole idea, and I've done a lot of, I guess, I've had a lot of time to think in this space. It's called metacognition, and it's thinking about your thoughts. And so it really, as much as I could tell you all of the facts about alcohol, and even if they start putting warning labels on alcohol, you're always going to justify your own position if that's what you want to do, and nothing I or you say is going to change someone else's opinion on what they want to do. They are going to make their choices, and they're going to justify their behavior until the cows come home, because it's what we do. But if anyone listening to this wants to kind of peel back that layer a bit, you can start thinking about your own thoughts and asking yourself why a few times. And you might start to understand your relationship with alcohol a little bit better. And then you might go, well, it's not serving me anymore, so maybe I can make a change. And that's where I got up to.
Mm.
I was like, everything in my being doesn't want to do this behavior, but I don't know how to exist without it. Why is that? It's the only coping tool I've got. Why is that? I never learned how else to function in society. I never learned how to walk out of the house without having a drink under my belt, because I didn't realize at the time, but I actually have a bit of social anxiety and I'm an introvert, and I thought that I was an extrovert, and I've only learned all of that since giving up alcohol. So it's a scary thing to start. I mean, look, I talk to myself a lot. It's kind of weird, but you do a lot of unpacking and self-discovery. And at the end of the day, like, the only person that can make the change is the person that's going to make the change.
100%.
So I kind of dodged answering your question, but I feel
In
like
my
it's sort
eyes,
of
you absolutely
irrelevant.
nailed it. No, like, I mean, the passion is oozing from the body. You've got like 10 years worth of experience. I mean, for someone that decided to do this 10 years ago when there wasn't as much information around,
Well, there was zero.
like, there was zero.
There was zero. There was nothing.
Also, like, first of all, that is a very brave and like empowering thing for you to do. Like, that mustn't have been easy. What were those first couple of months like?
Yeah, I think so. Originally, I decided to do January. So I never, so on, at the beginning of 2015, I didn't say I'm never drinking again. Or I was like, I'm going to get through January and I'm going. And let me just context that a little bit as well. So prior to that year, I had done dry Julys. Like, I'd given up alcohol for the month of July. I'd raised money for research for cancer. Raised money for cancer research. And I felt good about that. And I did a month off alcohol in years leading up to that with no drama at all. But then it was a very wet August. Dry July, very wet August.
Made up for it, yeah.
Right? So coming into 2015, my whole motivation was different. So in the past, I think I gave up alcohol for a month because I wanted to prove to myself that it wasn't problematic. So it was like, okay, if I can get through a month without booze, I don't have an issue. I'm good to go. But coming into January 2015, it wasn't about proving anything. It was about discovering my sober self. So I was like, what will I look like in 4 weeks' time? Internally, externally, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. How will I look in 4 weeks' time if I don't have alcohol in my system? Who is she going to be? So it became this whole different motivation, which took all this pressure off days and times and tally marks. It became less about counting the days and more about getting through the milestones in the moment. So the first month, I will say, like, the first 3 days were relatively easy because I was super hungover on New Year's Day. That was day one because I'd had a huge night the night before, knowing I was giving up alcohol because we're all human. And then the second day I was like, oh my God, I've gone 24 hours. So I was like ticking boxes, feeling great. Day 3, feeling good. Day 4, felt rubbish. What have I done? This is really hard. Have I really decided to do this for a whole month? Like, all the reality sort of started creeping in. And by that point too, I'd realized it had been 72 hours. So my liver had just been trying to pump all these toxins out of my body, and I'd been in a full detox, which can be consuming. And I think once you get through that detox phase, you sort of feel like quite vacuous. I was like, I can't drink wine when I watch TV tonight. I can't do this. And so the next few days, I do remember all I did was think about alcohol, and then I had to just distract myself. Like, I'm being very honest. I went for long walks. I cleaned all the cupboards in my house, and then I cleaned them again. And then I went through my cutlery drawers, and I was like, just do things that don't involve being around alcohol. So, like, don't go to the pub and hang out with friends because that will be really tempting. So I definitely bunkered in and kind of got through those next sort of few days. And then fast forward to about day 21, day 22, I totally remember waking up and it was matrixy. I woke up in the morning and everything looked a little different. Like, the trees were greener, the birds were singing, the sunlight was brighter. And I kind of felt, I was like, what is this? Because it was like the opposite of a hangover. And I realized that was just mental clarity. And that's probably how my brain should wake up every single day. And I had not felt like that since becoming an adult, basically.
Was there anything around that you like could dive into in terms of that more like actual research? Like,
No,
so you were just like
winging it.
and figuring it out.
Just figuring it out. So 2 things. One thing that I did, which wasn't helpful, so don't do this. leading into me making that decision to stop drinking, I actually Googled, am I an alcoholic? It was probably in about the October of that year. And what I read, so I read the definition of alcoholic and alcoholism. And then I got so pissed off because I'm like, well, that's not me. I'm like, well, if I'm not an alcoholic, whatever. Like I was so mad because I'm like, if I can label myself alcoholic, I can go to AA, I can do the meetings, I can get on the plan, and
That's the
I
thing,
can
right?
sort
Like,
it out.
you're not like, I feel like so many people don't go, like, they go, well, I don't feel like I need to go to AA. Like,
Right,
that's why.
that was me. And also I read the AA manifesto as well, and I was like, I get that this would work for a lot of people, and I understand why it does work for a lot of people and it saves a lot of people, but I was like, I don't feel like it's for me. But there was there was like AA or just figure it out, or it was AA or just like keep drinking for the next 10 years, Maz. Like, what decision do you want to make? So after some really intense conversations with myself in the mirror, I was like, even though that definition of drinking behavior doesn't resonate with you, like you're not out of the woods, we still need to figure it out. So then I made the decision to stop for a month. But during that month, I wrote in a diary every single day. And that's where I talk about in my book that journaling is a superpower. And that got me through, to come back to your question. Like, that actually helped me a lot. So every day I would wake up and write in my diary, not like, dear diary, I just would write how I was feeling, what was going through my mind about alcohol specifically. And that, I think, just helped externalize all of this stuff that was just really clogging up my thoughts. And I had no other outlet, really. I didn't really want to talk about it with anyone. I definitely didn't want to go on a podcast and talk about it at the time, right? So, and then there'd be days that I would wake up and I would be mad for some random reason, like not even anything boyfriend related, just, those days when you just wake up and you're just a bit angry at the world. So, and I'd be like, I don't want to write in my stupid diary. And then I would write, I don't want to write in this stupid diary. And I'd write about that. And so I just was really honest and vulnerable in that little book.
It's so funny you say that. So I was thinking about this conversation, and you said the exact same thing to me when I came and spoke to you about going sober, and you were so encouraging, and you were just like, here if you need. I wrote it down. So I have a journal, and I found it last night.
Did you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna read it out because
Oh, this is so cool.
it is so funny, but look, a lot's happened since then.
Yes.
And the vulnerability is going to come out, but it is so good for reflection, and
It's amazing.
yeah, in all of it. But
Before you read it,
Okay.
can I ask, how long ago was this journal entry?
So this was on the 10th of October 2022.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so it's a couple of years.
When you were reading it, do you recognize her?
Well, this is the thing. Is like I recognize her because I'm not where I want to be.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. That's
Yeah.
why I asked.
So
Okay.
I read this and I felt all the feelings of that person.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so interesting, even what I say at the end, because there's like an element of disappointment and a little bit of like, not, but like also that I'm so glad we're here having this conversation again. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So, and I think a lot, like, there are people that would be in the same position as me, I feel. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to just like delve in here.
Okay, delve
Let
in.
me
Where are
read
the
it.
tissues? Because I'm already emotional.
Okay, so I have decided to go sober. The reason, I've been contemplating and very half-ass attempting to stop drinking alcohol for a long time now. God, I'm going to get emotional.
Good. Emotions are good.
I reckon I'll try to unpack my feelings another time, but definitely in the last few months, it's been on my mind. I've still been drinking midweek wines or habitually at night. Not so much getting blackout drunk on the weekends or at events the way that I was pre-children. Though the actual craving to drink is not there, I'm just doing it anyway. I keep wanting to sort out my health, make better choices, give my body what it needs, but I just don't. I put it in the too hard or I'll do it another time basket. Keep moving the start date or the fence post. It truly is the cliche of no time like the present situation, and I am truly and I truly feel I am ready. As I started my new job at SCA, I came across one of the Hit Breakfast hosts, Maz Compton's Instagram pages that took me to her podcast, Last Drinks. Maz has been sober for close to 8 years, and I had no idea. I listened to nearly all of them in the last few weeks, and it became the catalyst for me deciding to hang up my drinking boots. A change in career and a change in my choices, it was what I needed to find, and it truly feels different this time. So many lols. To make myself accountable, I saw Maz today and I told her. She high-fived me and said she was here to talk whenever I was ready. In a few weeks, I'm going to check in with her as my reminder and motivator to keep going. I told her I'm starting with short goals, but everyone on that podcast she's interviewed really gives me the confidence I can do it. It gets easier and life gets so much better. I feel excited. Right now, I haven't been able to stop thinking about not drinking though. You still have a fear you'll fail or shame? So ridiculous. Or shame if you say you're going to and you don't follow through. I don't want to be that person. I have been that person before, a lot. So this is why I'm going to journal, to just chat out my day, my feelings, my progress, and let's see how I go. So I a bit failed. But you know what? Like, I think, oh, little bro's got the tissues.
Oh, by the way, we always cry when we catch up.
We
This
really
is super normal.
So normal.
Tissue break.
And you know, I think it's like such a double-edged sword to read that. I like I, I feel like, you know, everything that you said and so many people can like resonate with this. You wait to turn 18 so you can get blackout drunk, and that's like this huge milestone.
Yeah.
I was like the last person out of my friend group to turn 18, and I was like counting down the days before I could just like pretty much just knock back some vodka cruises and see how I went. And like,
No, sorry. It's not funny. It was sub-zeros for me. But like
different time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have that time.
You
And
do.
then everything like those years and to be honest, like I actually think that it's changing in society now, which I think is amazing. But it's about like going to festivals and going out, and like if you're not like, God forbid you ever said you weren't going to drink and not go to the club, like that's just what it was. I never really questioned my relationship with alcohol until we were trying to fall pregnant with Eloise. And I remember I was probably drinking more because people kept asking if I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And so because I wasn't,
Double-edged sword.
I was like, I need to get a drink in my hand ASAP.
Yeah.
And one of my girlfriends said to me, like, really, like, in the most beautiful way, I was drunk at an engagement party, and she was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not looking after yourself." And I realized in that moment that became like, that was a coping mechanism for me. And why was I being so cruel to my body that I was trying to, like, welcome a child? So there is so much shame around that, like so much shame. I wouldn't say my relationship with alcohol now is like, there are still times where I, you know, drink and don't like the way I feel. Well, I don't know anyone that drinks and wakes up the next day and goes, geez, I'm glad I
No one does
drank
that.
that bottle of wine last night.
No one does that.
But I do find myself constantly questioning why I'm drinking, but not quite making that choice. I don't feel free of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel free of it.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, ask me a
Firstly,
question.
thank you so much. That made me cry, and it was beautiful.
Oh.
But I'm gonna cry. It was so beautiful because it just reminded me of, I just know exactly how you feel.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I know. And I've been there, and I've sat in the shame show like so much, and you know, shame actually doesn't really achieve anything. So if anything, I wanted to encourage you to like just ditch the shame for now. Like, let's just unpack the relationship with alcohol. But I wonder if and this is going to sound really crazy. You did mention when you were reading, like, you're scared of failing. And so maybe that's why you were so reluctant to stop drinking for so long, because what if you failed? And my question to you is, like, maybe you just have a fear of success.
Yeah, wow.
So, like, maybe you'll actually succeed and then you can't sit in the shame anymore of failing. So just, like,
Sit with that.
just sit with that for a bit. We'll
Sit with
come
that for a
we'll
minute.
come back there.
Yeah, we'll circle back.
And the only reason that I say that to you, Loz, is I was on a call only like 3 weeks ago with a beautiful friend of mine, Isabella Ferguson, who runs like a kind of quit drinking program for women. And I was one of the guest speakers. And I was on this Zoom call with all of these women who were in the exact same situation as you, and they were like partway through. They were actually on their 3rd week, which for me was that matrixy week where everything changed. But one of the ladies, she said, "Hey, like, it's a really similar situation. I haven't quit because I'm afraid of failing and this, and it's really similar stuff." And then I don't know, it just, in the moment, I just said to her, I was like, maybe you're afraid of succeeding, because I actually believe that about myself as well. I don't have a fear of failing. Do you know how many times I've failed in my life, Loz? So many. I have a PhD in failing. I'm so good at it. I have failed at my career. I have failed at relationships. I have been divorced. Like, I have failed so much. I'm great at failing. I'm not awesome at being successful. I struggle with owning my own success, believing my own hype. I really wrestle with that. And I wouldn't say that I've always self-sabotaged, but there are those tendencies that I'm now aware of. And so I just wonder if that is maybe one of the driving forces behind you not being able to get to that place where you do feel free, because freedom is really scary.
Yeah.
Because then we can't hide behind the shame.
It's so interesting. I also, like, I've thought about this a little bit, where I also a bit low key. Like, I don't like making people feel uncomfortable, and I don't like being like, I'm a people pleaser. I am like, it pumps through my veins. That's a whole other conversation, and I think it does for a lot of people.
Yes.
There's also this part of me that doesn't want to have an awkward conversation or make other people who are drinking feel like guilty
Yeah.
or shameful.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, it's just a weird double-edged sword. But I just know for myself, and I know how good I feel when I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
I know I believe in the Matrix. Like, I believe in the Matrix.
It's real.
And
I'm living in it.
yeah.
Or out of it.
Yeah, the Matrix just doesn't exist for you anymore.
Maybe
You're in another world.
surpass the Matrix.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a rabbit hole. That's a whole rabbit hole.
Wind it back.
But I know that I can do it. Like, I didn't drink. The longest I've ever not drunk for is about 5 months.
Yeah.
And I would say that my relationship with alcohol has changed in the sense of probably how much and how often I drink.
Yeah.
But I still do in social situations, and I do constantly think about it. So I know it's a problem.
I have another nugget for you.
Give me
Are you ready for the
Give me
next
the
nugget?
nugget.
Again, like, totally empathize with the people pleasing thing. I have 2 PhDs. One is in failing and the other is in people pleasing. I am a people pleaser from way back. And I don't do conflict very well at all, which has served me okay in my current relationship, but in the past, not great, because I've just avoided, tackling problems and having difficult conversations because I don't like them. So one thing that really helped me overcome those barriers, because I think essentially what you're saying, this is what I'm hearing, is that, and I believe this about you, is that you are so capable of living without alcohol in your life and you're really kind of ready to let it fully go. But there's some thing that draws you back, and that thing might be helping other people not feel uncomfortable around you if you're not drinking, or helping yourself not feel uncomfortable around them. Like, it's all to do with sitting in the uncomfortability thing. So one thing that helped me was understanding the circle of responsibility. And the circle of responsibility, if you were to stand up and draw a circle around your feet, everything inside that circle is your circle of responsibility, and everything outside of it is not. kids and husbands excluded. Okay. So, like, obviously, we're not just all like throwing up our hands and go to the Maldives for 6 months on a sabbatical, right? Because we do
We
have
have to.
responsibilities. I know there are mortgages to pay, jobs to show up for. I'm not saying to be irresponsible, but what I'm saying is when you find yourself in that situation again around maybe the alcohol thing and like, okay, I don't want to say that I'm not drinking because then they're going to get weird with me and whatever. Just remember that the circle of responsibility is just around your feet and everything in it is your responsibility. So are you being responsible for yourself? What do you want to do? Do you want to not drink? Then don't drink. And then everything that happens outside of that circle of responsibility is not your responsibility and you cannot control either way. And I think once you, and this took me ages to get, and once I got it, it was great. And I got it from practicing being sober all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like you do have to sit in those awkward conversations a lot, but you gain more strength when you go, whatever they're thinking right now, it doesn't matter what I do. It wouldn't matter if I like started naked hula hooping right now. Like they are going to have their opinions on me and nothing I do is going to change. It doesn't matter. They've made up their mind. That is the way it is. It's not my responsibility. We're not on a people-pleasing mission. We're on a self-pleasing mission. So am I here having a good time? Yes. And then if you go, am I having a good time? No. You can leave.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't have to. And this again took me ages to figure out, but like you don't have to be at every party ever all the time either. Like you can just go home when you want if that's what you want to do.
And also you can be show up as an energetic, fun, talkative person
Yes.
without having to have a drink in your hand. And I think a lot of people use drinking as you said earlier in the chat, as like a coping mechanism for social situations
Totally.
or to loosen up and to feel like, as Natasha Bedingfield would say, release your inhibitions, feel the rain on your skin with a little champagnes. But that you can
Yeah.
do that and
Yeah.
probably like just put a little bit more like confidence and trust in yourself that you can do that. I want to talk about benefits.
Yes.
Like you've done a lot of research. Like let's just rattle off the benefits. I mean, some are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But what are some that maybe surprised you or that people might not know?
So there's the vanity benefits, which we love, the external benefits, and then there's internal ones, which are boring. So let's go through the vanity ones that we love. So I'm 45. Look at my skin.
Glowing.
So your skin will clear up. The whites in your eyes will be brighter. Your hair will look fantastic. Your nails will be stronger. You will probably, most people do tend to lose a bit of puff. If you drink a lot of alcohol, it holds inflammation in your body. So you probably will be a bit puffier either in your face or in other parts of your body. That will just naturally dissipate. So it's not a guarantee, but a bit of weight might fall off, which is cool. So they're probably the external ones that people will say to you. So if you stop drinking for a couple of months, somebody might be like, my God, Lars, like, what are you doing to your hair? It looks amazing. Like, are you using avocado oil or whatever the latest, TikTok trend is? And then you can say, actually, no, like, I just haven't had a drink haven't been like guzzling back ethanol in my spare time for a few months. And it seems to be doing really well for me. So they're the external benefits, which is nice because other people, it's encouraging when someone will say something to you like, geez, your skin's looking good or you're looking really healthy. What are you doing? And it's 100% because you're not drinking. The internal benefits, I said they're boring. They're not. They're amazing. So when you drink any amount of alcohol, any amount, like a glass, a bottle, a Jeroboam, a case, you are putting yourself at risk of 11 different types of cancer. So when you stop drinking, one of the internal benefits that you gain is that you are not putting yourself at risk of 11 different types of cancer. So your cancer risk decreases significantly. And for women, I think the stat is it decreases your chance of breast cancer by 40%.
Wow.
Do you want me to say it again?
Wow.
40% decrease in your risk of breast cancer for women if you stop drinking alcohol right this very second.
Wow.
So we could probably stop there because that's pretty amazing. But your digestive system will recover. Your liver won't be overloaded, pumping out toxins. So once you drink alcohol, basically all the other systems in your body pretty much stop working. So all that energy goes to your liver so that your liver can get the toxins out of your body. So it just stops everything from working properly when you drink alcohol. And then the other thing that it does that's really not cool is it messes with your brain. So it just changes your brain chemistry. They've done studies on this. It's pretty crazy. When you go out and the next day you're like, how did I get home?
Yeah.
Do you ever have that one?
Major anxiety.
Like looking in the wallet for the taxi receipt of like, did I get a cab or did someone drive me home? Like blackouts are all to do because your brain stops working properly. So whenever you drink alcohol, you're just letting your brain not work like it's supposed to. And then the more alcohol you have, obviously, the more detrimental that gets to your neurotransmitters. So that's pretty bad too. When you think about it, like if I was to say, hey, Loz, there's 2 drinks on the table here. If you drink one, it's water. Nothing's going to happen to your body. It won't increase your risk of cancer and you won't forget anything about our conversation. But there's this drink here and it's vodka. So if you have that, you're going to increase your risk of 11 different types of cancer and you may or may not remember how you get home. What drink are you going to have? Like when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so interesting. And it's like people know that. Like people subconsciously know if I drink too much, I'm probably going to like wake up tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
there'll be
feel
an
like
incident,
shit. I'm not
something.
going to know. Like potentially you don't know how you're going to get home. You forget conversations that you have.
Yeah.
The anxiety and like actually getting older as well. You know, I have conversations with people where they're like, oh, hangovers hit different when you hit your 30s.
They
Because
do.
it gets harder.
And that's because your hormones change. So women, alcohol is honestly the worst thing that we can put in our bodies, especially as we get closer to midlife because our hormones change. So we have a drop in a hormone that actually neutralizes the impact that alcohol has on our body. At 40 is when it drops. And that's when a lot of women are like, yeah, my hangovers are way worse. And it's like, yeah, they're way worse because the hormone that was actually helping this kind of get through your system has completely dropped off, and that makes it harder and makes the hangovers worse. But what I will say about all of this information is that it kind of doesn't matter because people are still going to make their own choices. So as much as we can fearmonger, and say, hey, this alcohol, it is toxic, it's detrimental, it's the worst friend you'll ever have, but everyone is only going to make a decision that they want to make. And so none of that matters if you are drinking to mask the pain of a childhood trauma that you haven't dealt with, because that is not worth delving into until you're ready to delve into it.
Yeah.
So that's why I've said to come to a place of your relationship with alcohol, ask yourself why and why and why and why again, because it won't be because most people don't give up alcohol because they hear a bunch of facts about it and then go, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore, right? Like most people are in way too deep. Like it is covering up so much pain for them that they're like, I'm okay with those risks because I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
But when the pain of living with it becomes heavier than the pain you're going to have without it temporarily is when you tend to make that switch. And it will be when you peel back all the layers and ask yourself why, but why, but why, but why, but why. And when you get to the core truth of it, that's when you can make a choice and not before. It won't be any moment before that. You can't get there. That's where I had to get to. I had to get to the point where I was like, I refuse to do this anymore now. But it wasn't about all of the stuff that I'd read about alcohol and how bad it was for me. It was because I didn't want to miss out on finding my best and sober self and waste another 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
Because that's how it would have gone for me. I was at a point where I was like, it is going to spiral and escalate dramatically and badly if I keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm on the cusp. So I'm going to rein it in. I'm going to put on my big girl pants and I'm going to give it a real shot. But I never said I was never drinking again. And I haven't really said that in the last 10 years either. It's still...
But you haven't.
But I haven't, and I probably won't. Like, I highly doubt that I will drink. But I don't need the pressure of that either, because it's just an added pressure I just don't need. It's like, will I ever drink again? I highly doubt it. But definitely not today,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm 100% not today. I'm feeling pretty good about my decision over the last 10 years to not drink. Oh, and I reckon I'll stick with it.
And how good? Because 10 years is probably fine for you. Like, do you feel
No.
like you
It's interesting because, and you will know this because we're friends, but like in the last couple of years, I had the worst couple of years of my whole life on this planet, and I was sober for all of it. And so, I don't think that I had this misconception that you quit drinking and then everything in your life becomes perfect. Like, there are definitely benefits, 100%. But 10 months into my sobriety, I lost my dream job, and it was so horrendous and sad, and I was angry, and I was disappointed in myself, and I felt like I'd let people down and that I'd failed, and I felt publicly humiliated because it was in the paper. I went through a full identity crisis. And that day, the 6th of October, 2015, I did think to myself, geez, I'd really like a drink today.
Mm.
But I didn't have a drink that day because after being sober for 10 months, I knew that having a drink wasn't going to get me my job back. And that's all that I wanted at the time. And then, even years and years of building up that strength, like to go to events and pubs and bars and whatever without drinking, it just builds over time. And you have all these milestones, like you go to your first wedding or your first 40th or your first divorce party, and you don't drink. So I had all this like, sober strength behind me. But then like my dad died, and that was really shit. And I didn't feel like drinking through that time, but it was really hard, like one of the hardest things I've navigated. Dad and I had a really tricky relationship. He was overseas at the time. He needed medical intervention. It was like a whole 8-week whirlwind of stress and chaos and financial strain and trying to do the right thing as his kid, and but on the other side of the world, like it was, and we knew he was going to pass away, but he passed away with dignity, which was my beautiful gift to him. But like that was really hard. And then I've had 2 miscarriages. That's really hard. Like, I've done the hardest in the last few years. And so the thing that I will say, like, never in those moments did I want to drink. But always in those moments, I was so grateful for my capacity to handle it well, even though it was really hard. So I don't know how you handle death well, but I feel like I've journeyed through the grief of my dad dying really solidly and strongly. And I went to a therapist, and I talked about it and unpacked it and processed it in a way that I'm really proud of. And so I can really sit here comfortably and say, like, I love and miss my dad, but I grieved well. If I don't know if that makes sense, but like I had a good grief. Even though it was the hardest, it ruined my heart. It was awful. So
but you confronted it,
head on.
yeah, wholeheartedly,
And I
eyes
didn't
wide open.
push it under the rug or drink it away or try and forget about it or avoid it, right? And so the same with the miscarriages, like the worst thing you can go through as a female, as a couple, as a family. But I've made peace with it because I'm sober and because I have this amazing capacity to be so connected to my heart and my healing, and that I think I wouldn't have if I wasn't sober. So it's given me the most beautiful gifts in what has honestly been like the worst time of my whole life, which is kind of perfect. Do you know what I mean?
You are so sensational, honestly. Thank you. Like that
That was a lot.
to also just to like actually acknowledge that as well is that sobriety can give you a lot of great things, but that doesn't mean the hard like you're not going to face hard
Look,
things.
the hard things are coming regardless of if you're drunk or not, right? Like it's coming for all of us. There's going to be tough times. There's struggles, there's sadness, there's accidents, there's so many things. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's life. We don't get out of it. And just because you drink, you're not getting out of it. You're just going to make it worse.
You
Like
just can't
sobriety,
fight it.
honestly, when I think about it, and I haven't thought about it for a little while because things have been okay for the last few months, but it's nice to say that sobriety was the most beautiful gift in like my darkest moments rather than it being the thing that saved me out of the dark moments. Like it helped me get through them.
Yeah. Well said, honestly. And thank you for being like, we've both been drinking a bit of vulnerability today. But it's been so nice. And thank you for sharing your experiences, your like insights, the hard truths, and the stats as well. Like that's pretty confronting to hear, what that could look like for people who continue to drink alcohol. But equally, like I really love that you are such a sobriety advocate, but you also empower people to make decisions for themselves, not because you think it because it's a good idea, because I mean it is a good idea, but also that like that responsibility lies with that person, and to ask yourself why. Like I think that's a bigger sort of message as well. You are such an angel. You are such a precious person in my life. So I really appreciate getting to sit down, even though we were totally supposed to go for walks and chats many times before this.
I love you.
Love you. Thank you so much. That's great. Let's finish with that.
And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Come give me a big hug.
Oh, I need to go. Oh, my leg's dead. I can't stand up. Oh.
Bless you.
I didn't think I'd cry that much. I was expecting you to cry.
I felt what you